So this story, okay, is basically the story of what some may have called the Lady of Shalott, okay? And this lady was a beautiful maiden, and she was cursed and locked up inside of a tower, like most beautiful maidens are, you know? And basically, she can only see the outside world by looking in a mirror. Okay, this is a solstice story. So she can only see the outside world by looking in a mirror. She can only sit inside the tower and weave, again, a beautiful feminine craft, that we can do together as women. She's isolated. So that's the key. She's isolated and locked away from the earth and community. And so she only gets a glimpse of what is happening in life as a concept, right? So she's getting a glimpse of all of these things happening, and she is conceptualizing it, right? So it's very mental. She's not actually experiencing, she's not living it, right? So what ends up happening is that she ends up living in what we call this fantasy realm, right? This maiden locked away in isolation, living in a fantasy realm. And then one day she sees Lancelot. And she sees him in the mirror, and she's like, oh my God, this is the most amazing expression of the masculine. Wow, he is so gorgeous. He is so talented. He is the best knight in the land. And he's Arthur's support, right? And she feels so connected to him. And that activates her desire body. Okay. Finally, through this sense of desire, she steps away. The mirror cracks. She gets herself out of the tower, escapes, gets herself on a boat, gets herself down the river, and starts making her way to Camelot. Okay. She's on the river, which is really the point of the river, is that this is when she is now transitioning, right? So she's transitioning out of this fantasy isolated maiden, right? And moving out of that timeline, right? And into a different timeline where she says that she's now going to be part of Camelot, and she's going to court and marry Lancelot and all of these things. Like, she wants to be part of the court, part of Camelot. And she really believes that she's going to get Lancelot, even though Lancelot is committed, to someone else, right? Okay, so I want to just highlight that her holy desire for the fantasy that she's building in her mind is what literally breaks her out of this isolation. She makes it to Camelot, but by the time she gets there, she's actually dead, right? So the mythos around this, right? This is like that whole piece around dying to the fantasy, dying to the identities that we've all been doing for like years, right? Dying to these fantasies. And of course, there's many, many iterations to this story, but the deeper undercurrents here of this myth is that her actual name, the Lady of Shalott, is actually linked into Elaine, the lily maid, Ellen, the original deer goddess, Elania, right? The house of the sun, Anya, the solar goddess. These are all iterations of her, okay? And so the deer goddess and Ellen is the maturation of the Lady of Shalott, out of the isolated fantasy-based maiden and into this deer goddess, this deer mother, right? When the fantasy actually drops, the deeper truths of who she is comes to light. Now, who was this deer mother, right? Some call her Ellen of the Ways, the feminine, right? She is the aspect of the feminine that is connected into the dragon lines of the planet, connected into these planetary memories, listening with her feet in the earth, right? Becoming the vessel, this ancient and eternal beast with antlers, the deer mother, antlers in the sky, right? The original deer mother is the original myths of this particular time of winter solstice. So it's kind of like and what Holly would say is like this feminine Santa Claus, right? Mrs. Claus, but it's not. It's the feminine Santa Claus, right? So what we're seeing in this kind of mythos is this rematrixing of the solar feminine power in the earth herself. And then you, human, becoming the vessel of that, right? With these horns in the sky and receiving from the earth below. So we are the bridge. Once again, that makes sense, right? So we go in from like this fantasy maiden into the wild one, the deer, the wild one that says, I actually have the solar power or this illuminating force of God within me.